Hello, and welcome to Branch Space's Future Picks podcast, where we pick up on and break down the latest trends, strategies, and technologies shaping the future of the aviation travel industry. I'm your host, Clarissa Jenkins. Currently, the airlines that are pulling ahead aren't just optimizing operations. They're rethinking their entire digital distribution and commercial models, like building dynamic retailing engines that are holistic and intelligent, yet intuitive. They're monetizing every touch point with tailored engagement and employing personalization, data, AI, and loyalty to deliver measurable revenue, while everyone else is on the runway. This is the benchmark now, and it's putting the industry at a real inflection point, not only to turn strategy into effective execution, but to do it fast enough to keep up. That's exactly why events like CAPA Airline Leaders Summit are so crucial. This year's theme, Airlines in Transition, kicks off April 23rd in Berlin. Also, today I'm joined by Claudia Kunz, Senior Director of Events at Informa Markets and for CAPA. We'll get a behind-the-scenes view of the approaches and conversations shaping this year's agenda, coordination, and execution. Also, what airline leaders are actually prioritizing right now, such as the rise of non-ticket revenue to the legitimate role of AI and digital retailing. Also, how executives are coming together at roundtables to solve real problems, not just passively talk about them. You're going to hear where strategy meets reality. Oh, and you definitely do not want to miss Claudia's perfect cheat sheet to help you prepare for CAPA with confidence. So let's take off. All right, everyone. And without further ado, please welcome Claudia Kunz to the Future Picks podcast today. Thank you so much, Claudia, for joining us today. How are you feeling?
Thank you, Clarissa. Pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you very much for the invitation. Yeah, all good. A little bit tense as we're gearing up for the event next week. So as you can imagine, as event organizers, the final few days before an event, that's when things start to get really hectic to tackle the last minute things. But so far, so good.
Yeah, and I'm sure us coming in and asking for an interview or asking for a chat just, makes it a bit more hectic. So again, we really appreciate you taking the time. And you had mentioned this, yes, as a coordinator over your career, you've evolved from international business and marketing to now leading some of the aviation industry's most influential events at CAPA and Informa Markets. So for those who are a bit unfamiliar, can you please give our audience a quick intro and the journey that you've taken that's brought you to where you are today?
Yes, absolutely. I started my career actually on cruise ships. I was sailing the seven seas, already doing events back then. And then I continued to do events for various other sectors. I was working with embassies back in my home country, Switzerland, managing the trade and investment sections and also delivering high caliber events. But since I moved to Australia in 2016, that's when I joined CAPA. CAPA Center for Aviation, as you mentioned, is part of Informa Markets and part of the Aviation Week network. We have some of the biggest aviation events worldwide. Maybe you're familiar with the Roots events or the MRO trade shows. These are trade shows with, 20, 30,000 people. So massive. And Informa is the world's leading exhibition organizer and a global leader in B2B events. At CAPA, we do 6 global airline leaders summits every year. So basically one in every continent. The one next week is in Berlin. So that has a very Europe focus. But our events are known for very, very high caliber speakers, cutting edge content. That's basically why people come to learn at our events, because of our content and discussions that are happening on stage. But also you get some of the best networking opportunities at our events. My team also delivers 3 of the global airport development, the GAD events. These are very, very high level for airports. So we tend to get all the airport CEOs and the investors and the airport developers. So we do 3 of these per year as well. So yeah, that's me.
That's really cool, starting off on the high seas and then now you're in the air, so to speak,
Oh,
especially being on the side of airlines and airports. We're seeing a
yeah.
lot more of that partnering together and making sure that we're advancing the industry with this common knowledge and this common vocabulary, as we've heard some of our other guests say. And when it comes to CAPA specifically in that agenda, what would you say are two key themes that attendees should definitely be on the lookout for this year, and perhaps what currently makes those themes advantageous to attendees within the airline industry?
Yeah. Well, Clarissa, had you asked me this very same question maybe 2 months ago, I would have given you a different answer. But, due to the geopolitical situation in the world, we actually needed to redo our agenda a little bit. We're very agile. We do react to what's currently happening. What keeps airline CEOs awake at night. And that's what we want to talk about as well. And the event in Berlin, really, we changed quite a bit of the agenda to reflect these current issues that the airlines are facing. So geopolitical concerns and the uncertainty it drives, they are the biggest issues right now for the industry. Fuel prices are high, reduced refinery capacity, and the backlog of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz obviously means that jet fuel is close to double the price from what it was in February. So global turbulence and fuel price will likely be the themes that are going to be talked about at all of the upcoming events. We have an America Summit in the US, in Charleston, coming up in May as well. So really, these are the key topics. Sustainability is taking a little bit of a backseat at the moment. It's not gone. We will bring it back for sure, because obviously airlines with their net zero ambitions, that is still a topic that we talk about. But at the moment, these global turbulences. And at the event in Berlin, there is one session really I want to highlight. It's a session that is being moderated by CNN's Richard Quest. It is titled Navigating Global Turbulence. And of course, the audience is very, very keen to hear, especially from Middle Eastern carriers, how are they impacted? How are they indeed navigating this current situation? And we're really happy and very proud as well that Emirates Sir Tim Clark has agreed to join us virtually. He cannot be there in person, of course, understandable, but he did agree to do a virtual session, which will be still moderated by Richard Quest from Berlin. So it's a live session with Sir Tim Clark joining us virtually. So that should really be a very good session.
It's interesting that you said about sustainability actually taking a backseat
Yeah.
without getting too much into, the details of current geopolitics. I almost had this idea that maybe it would come more to the forefront because it gives another reason to perhaps focus on sustainable or alternative fuel types in this future situations that, we have more tensions, or, the access to other fuels are not readily available all the time in situations that are kind of out of our hands or out of airlines' hands. So that's really interesting to hear you say that. And the idea that, yeah, even though we are all part of this global economy, and we are
Yeah.
all, working together within it, as well as being competitors in some instances. So there is this common cause to understand what's going on in the world and even foster that collaboration to help each other out during it. We've seen that across the board with different
Yeah.
airlines helping other
Mhm.
countries with, their passengers or operations or things right now. And it's honestly really beautiful to see. So really
Yeah.
appreciate that insight.
It's actually a really good point that you mentioned here, helping the industry. And that's something that I really pride CAPA to be at the forefront of that. already during COVID, when everything was, grounded, and really the industry, our beloved industry, I have a big passion for this industry. I really do. But, it was so sad to see everything grounded. So CAPA was actually there during COVID with our data, our analysis. That's the other part of our business. We don't just do events. We provide the industry with that much needed data. And this is exactly what we're doing right now as well. The industry wants to get together to talk about these issues and find solutions. And our events, while small in size, we bring 300 people to Berlin, but it's the decision makers that come, and they appreciate to be with their peers and hear from their peers what are they doing. So I really think in these difficult, challenging times, it's very, very important to be there for the industry.
Exactly, particularly when we are very virtual nowadays and it's not
Yeah,
as natural of an opportunity to come together in person. So when you
yeah,
have those opportunities on such a large scale, plus who doesn't love to visit Berlin every once in a while,
exactly.
it's a beautiful sight.
Absolutely, yeah.
And along this path, the idea of evolving, as you mentioned, how do you think CAPA has evolved their events to support airlines turn these two themes into actionable insights? On one hand, you had mentioned the data analysis, data and analytics, which could definitely be one. Is there anything else that comes to mind across interline sharing or maybe their digital channels and how they can support each other and the passengers along with it?
Yeah, yeah. So our events are very strong on knowledge transfer, especially on formulating actionable responses to these issues through open discussion. But we also conduct so-called executive roundtables on site. These are actually, I'm going to say closed door. There's Chatham House rules. So where we invite airline executives and a few of our partners to talk during a lunch and a breakfast session behind closed doors, no media in the room, so they can really, really have these open peer discussions, something, addressing items like rising fuel prices. And that's something we know. We've been doing these for around a year, highly successful, because it is appreciated by the airline delegates. They want to find a safe space to talk about with their peers. So I want to say that's certainly a key element to the event, these roundtables.
Yeah, well, I definitely want everyone to check out those roundtables if possible, or keep them in mind for their organizations and look
Exactly.
be on the lookout for those
Yeah.
because we are seeing those, like you said, some of those challenges across the board that could differ based on the airline's passenger or their business model, but at the core of it, understanding their customers, understanding the market, and the quick evolution of the market. I mean, come on, it's evolving faster than ever with AI and that
Yes.
communication, instant communication
Yeah.
aspect that, everyone maybe looking around themselves and saying, are we all feeling this or is it just me? And can we
Yeah.
finally talk about the elephant in the room?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's, yeah. So thank you so much for that idea. When it comes to those roundtables, are there any topics that you can bring to mind that you remember from recent ones that were particularly interesting to you or
Yeah.
really came to some good results?
Yeah, you did mention AI. Obviously, that's something, maybe not so much for CEOs, airline CEOs, they have their tech people, but that has been around the table a very, very intense topic. And you could feel over the past year, maybe there was a bit of how is this going to also embracing it. And what we're seeing more and more is very specific case studies on stage as well, where airlines together with AI companies, they present what they're doing and how they're going about it. So these things are typically also really, really good for the audience when you come with specific examples. We can talk all day long about AI, but then people want to see some proper use cases and what airlines are doing with it. So that's kind of our approach, what we're trying to do as well.
And that must be very interesting or almost validating for audience members to see those specific case studies because, again, AI is across all industries. So it's easy to bring up those ideas of how it can help various industries, but how is it going to lead to, the next stage of the future, specifically for aviation and the way that consumers travel and search?
Oh yeah.
We see that with our TripLake product. How can we effectively use AI, not just a hose frame, but actually make it more efficient, more enjoyable, more personalized TripLake modules with AI integrated. So
Yeah.
we don't want to necessarily need it everywhere, but in those strategic moments during flight search or those loyalty, understanding who you are as a loyalty member, really playing big factors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, in the last, 2, 3 years, it's been absolutely unbelievable what happened, and I do remember back. It was in 2022, just when we came out of COVID. We also had Sir Tim Clark. I keep mentioning because I have highest admiration for him, but he was at our event in Manchester, and he kind of jokingly said, "Oh, next time I join a CAPA event, it might not be me in person. I might send my hologram." And everyone was like, "Oh, yeah, sure." But, we're almost there.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen some airlines have like AI, what is it, flight attendants.
Yeah,
So on their social media profiles, like a whole profile dedicated to an AI flight attendant. So, and
yeah,
that
yeah,
creates that personable touch
yeah, yeah.
and the inside scoop on what it means to be with that airline. But also, okay, this is not a real human. For
Yes,
lack of a better words. And you touched on this a little bit, coordinating these events and these roundtables cannot be easy because you really want to make sure you have the right recipe for something that's outstanding with whether it's on the partner side or the speaker side. So I'm curious, what would you say are some of the ingredients within that recipe for CAPA events? Perhaps there's certain things you look out for to make sure that you're driving the real commercial and operational value, not only for your partners in that city, but the attendees, such as ranch stays.
yes, yes, absolutely. So for our partners, we work with a principal partner that is our host. Every event has a principal host. In the case of Berlin, that's Berlin Airport. And these hosts, obviously, they have their key drivers to to host us are they want to get the airlines to the destination. They want to drive route development. They want to be really close to these decision makers. So we work very close and we tailor the agenda also according to wish lists we receive from a host. And all our other partners are cornerstone diamond gold partners. They all have their objectives as well that we really, really try to work very close with them to find out what is it that you want? What is the ideal outcome for you when you attend an event? So typically it is, of course, meeting as many of the delegates as possible. And here's where CAPA comes, is very good as well to make introductions on site and whatnot, because we really want the best outcome for our partners, of course. From a delegate perspective, customer experience is so important for us. And It starts with the registration. We want to have an easy registration process, and everything from then on has to be smooth and has to be almost an experience for the delegate. The way we communicate with delegates in the lead up to the event. I want to say I send communication from my personal outlook. I still think as the event director, people don't want to see a marketing EDM. They want to get someone they can then respond to and ask a question. So I think that's really, really important, that personal touch. And then, of course, on site at the event, everything, we have no queues at our registration desk. We have cabaret set up in the room so people can network as well. We try to have audience interaction as well as much as possible, creating new things, not just the Q&As, but we want to have word clouds. We want to have polling. We like when our moderators, they go to the audience and they stand in the audience and do the session from there. And just, really, really from A to Z, inclusive of the social events, the networking dinner, the welcome reception, so that really people go back to say that was great. Not just did I learn a lot, I met all the right people. It was a great experience.
Yeah, like genuinely fun. Almost doesn't feel like work in a way. And I like
Exactly.
your thing, the A to Z aspects. It's not just, we usually use the term end to end, but
Yeah.
A to Z really puts that like visual aspect behind it. And also there's a lot of similarities in your answer to what airlines are hoping to provide their passengers. Everything from the flight search to the personalization, understanding who you are and creating those spaces where you can, in our case, digital spaces where you can either be empowered to self-service, or have that direct contact with the
Yes.
airline and the people that you can really help you out. And so I have one more question for you today,
Sure.
Claudia, if you're all good. And I think this one is maybe one that everyone's wondering. So for those who are joining you at CAPA in Berlin later this month, what do you personally recommend that they prioritize or seek out to make the most out of those 3 days? You've mentioned quite a bit of, sessions and collaborative experiences, but say for partners like Branch Space, how can they contribute or collaborate in the most effective way with, you and CAPA overall?
Yeah. Yeah. So how can you get most of the 3 days? I want to say to everyone, to our partners like Brown Space, but to everyone, like, come prepared. Come prepared in terms of know your audience already beforehand. I know not everyone likes to download apps, but I really want to recommend downloading our event app and just familiarize yourselves with the audience, who's there, who do I want to speak to, make yourself a list and mark a few sessions. And if there's, specific people that you do want to speak to, also talk to the CAPA team. We're there. There's lots of us there. Come and talk to us. Can you please introduce me? I want to talk to Joseph Faradi, CEO of Wizz Air. I can't find him. Yeah, no problem. Let me just grab him, go and find him. We're there to help. But really, really, if you familiarize yourself before, to spend half an hour with the attendee list, with the sessions, I think that then when you're on site, you know exactly what you want, where you want to go, and who you want to meet. So yeah, that's kind of what I would recommend.
And get to know the layout of the expo floor. Those things are quite large. So looking at the map beforehand on the app always helps. And wow, I think you just might have given away one of the biggest secrets of legitimately approaching team members and asking
Yeah,
them, where can I find this person? Where can I find this session? Do you know? Do you have the
because
the
we do
secret?
know. We actually do
Yeah.
know who they are. We know how they look like.
That's true. Exactly. Exactly. Well, I will definitely employ that in the future. Unfortunately, I personally will not be attending CAPA this
Ah,
year, but
what a
there's
shame.
always next year. And this has made me very excited for those who are attending. So again, Claudia, I really want to thank you for coming on today, the Future Picks podcast. I know the Branch Space team is looking forward to CAPA and seeing you there, as well as everyone else attending. So if there's any last words you want to say, comments, questions, concerns for our audience today before
Look,
we head out?
it's going to be a great event. It's shaping up to really be the gathering of the airline leaders, or as we like to call it, it is the Davos of the aviation. You know, you have the World Economic Forum in Davos, so we are that for the aviation.
Fabulous. Okay, well, I'll let you go, and we'll look forward to seeing all of the media next week from the event, and hopefully chat to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Clarissa. Thank you. Bye-bye.